What is up? Do a little chat check before we get going here. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on today. All right, it is mine are going through. We'll see if anybody else's. Yep, there we go. Everybody's are going through, so that is a good thing, no doubt about it. So several things going on today. Bob Pockris, I didn't even get this in a video, but Bob Pockris is saying that Kevin Harvick's fire suit says forever, so possibly hinting that this could be his last season. So it could be his farewell tour coming up. Obviously, Dale Jr. bought the Cars tour. Breaking news just happened. Nobody knew about it. Let's see what else happened. Andretti not only trying to get to F1, but also trying to get to NASCAR. That's very interesting. Also, some of the F1 gatekeeping, not wanting Andretti in there. Very interesting. So pretty much a lot of stuff going on, a lot of angles. Anything you want to look at, anything you want to talk about. So we'll just turn it over to the chat and see what you guys are interested in talking about. Mark Barnum says, not much. I am so ready for racing to start. I'm ready for racing to start too. Can't wait for the 24 hours, the official kicking off of sort of professional racing series or whatever throughout the land. So 24 hours, the Rolex 24 Daytona, always a good thing. Bumblebee, what's up? Saying, I see you on the chat check. Mark Barnum saying, what's up? What's up, Mark? We'll see here. Ryan Roman, Philadelphia Eagles news. I can't wait to see Chase Elliott's Napa 2023 paint scheme tomorrow. So yeah, that's interesting. We haven't seen Chase's yet, but we saw Alex Bowman's, and a lot of people liked it. I thought it was a step back from his paint schemes from last year. I thought last year's paint schemes were sort of basically all timers as far as the 48 car goes. But this one, the white one is not bad. The all black one with sort of the fuzzy looking A. It sort of looks like a Netflix loading screen on the hood. I'm not a big fan of that one, but they're not the worst designs I've ever seen. But I just felt like last year's paint scheme on the 48 on Alex Bowman looked so much better. But yeah, we should be seeing some other paint schemes here pretty soon, and some pre-orders for diecast. JR Racing Team says hello. What's going on, JR? One Wise Guy, what's up? JD Mayer says, I'm sure every race they will be mentioning Harvick, all like Petty's last year in the 1992 season. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Kevin Harvick's raced at the Cup level for like 23 years, right? So, I mean, he's gonna get a heck of a send off, and he deserves a heck of a send off. He's a champion, former champion. He's got he's got a ton of wins, like 50 or 60 wins. He's been there a long time. He's also, what's more important about Kevin Harvick is he bridged that gap in the Earnhardt tragedy. He sort of carried that flag for RCR for a long time. He had a lot of pressure on him. He carried that for a long time, and just combine all those things together. And Kevin Harvick is a lot of people's favorite driver for just several reasons. He went over to Ford and he carried the banner for Ford for a long time too. He's definitely still the best driver at Stewart-Haas Racing. But he carried the banner for Ford for a long time too. Went over there when Stewart-Haas switched over to Ford. So he's got a lot of different fans for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, he's definitely going to get a big send off. I think they'll mention it every race. It would be cool because I know Busch Light does a really good job with their sponsorship and stuff. It would be cool if he got sort of like a different sponsorship or a sort of paint scheme for each track. Richard Petty had like a little sticker on the back of his car at each track for his farewell tour. So it'll be interesting to see if Busch Light does something similar to that for Kevin Harvick going forward. Mark Barnum says F1 sucks. I don't think F1 sucks. Like basically the best way to break it down is if they let an 11th team in, that sort of takes away from their market share. So that's the real reason they probably don't want another team coming in. They probably just want Andretti to buy out a team or something like that. But then there's all the reasons they actually give to the public, and that does show some of the elitism at the upper levels of F1. I'm not talking about F1 fans. I'm talking about the people running the teams in F1, not even the FIA itself. But it just shows sort of their elitism, how they just have a disdain for Americans and American race teams. So some of that's coming out, and that definitely sucks. You hate to see things like they're saying about American race teams and American racing. So that's definitely a super lame thing for some of those cats to be saying about American racing. Bumblebee, appreciate it with the super chat. At Shoney's eating my birthday supper, I wanted to ask if you think Harvick has a great year and possibly goes far in the playoffs to go out. I think they'll send him out. I think that's a good point. I think they'll send him out on a high note without a doubt. So I think he's going to get the absolute best equipment. I think Rodney Childers is going to push it harder than he's ever pushed it. And I think Kevin Harvick is going to give it every single thing that he's got. I think you're going to see, since he knows it's his last season, he's always been good. He's never really had a terrible season, but he's going to have a renewed focus, much like I think Kyle Busch will have a renewed focus. So I do expect Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, if the rumors are true, right? Like Kevin Harvick hasn't said it. This is just something inferred by Bob Pockrass. But yeah, for sure, I think Kevin Harvick is going to have a good run, and I would not surprise me at all to see him make the Final Four at all. Of course, you know, the playoffs can go either way. Something crazy can happen, but it would not shock me at all to see Kevin Harvick make the Final Four. I'm thinking at least the Elite Eight or Final Eight. Elite Eight is college basketball. The Final Eight or whatever. We'll just take college basketball stuff. The Elite Eight. Kevin Harvick will make the Elite Eight. Let's see here. Mark Barnum, Kyle, you see colleagues switching manufacturers going to Chevy. I mean, they're with Chevy. I don't think they're going to change from Chevy, and here's why. They're on campus. I don't think they'll change from Chevy. Because they're on the RCR campus, I don't really see them deviating. I think as goes RCR, so goes Colleague. So basically, whatever RCR's got going on, I think Colleague will sort of stick with that and keep doing that. And that's sort of always the way I've sort of viewed that. Kevin S says, "What's up, y'all? Watching at the Chili Bowl? That's awesome, man. That's an awesome seat to have. Chili Bowl, pretty awesome. I did see where Kaylee Bryson won one of her heat races in that bright purple Yahoo 71. So that's pretty cool. I haven't seen a whole lot of coverage other than that, but it's definitely going to be a fun time. I know Chase Briscoe's racing in it. I know Kyle Larson and maybe Christopher Bell. There's two NASCAR drivers that are sitting it out because they want, or maybe it might be Ricky Stenhouse. It's one or the other. Might be Ricky Stenhouse. Kyle Larson for sure though, but they're sitting it out because they want the drivers to get paid more for winning the Chili Bowl. So there is a little bit of a sort of some politicking going on during that as well. But Chili Bowl, always a great event. So hopefully puts on a good show. It always does. So I don't know why I even said that, but it'll be a fun event for everybody watching. And cool to see you are there. Aaron Flynn says, "What's up? Finishing the night with Smart TV in the shop. That's awesome, man. Old shop night. Season is creeping up on us. It's right around the corner. So start all the stuff you put off, you start smashing on now. Do you think Alex Bowman stays with Hendrick and Ally after his contract is up? If I'm correct, it ends after this season," says Cole Boys Racing 28. I do think Alex Bowman will stay with Hendrick as long as Ally stays with Hendrick. And I'm pretty sure Ally is going to stay with Hendrick. I don't have any reasoning for that. It's just a feeling. But my whole thing with Alex Bowman is who are you really going to replace him with? If you really believe in Josh Berry, I could see you maybe replacing him with Josh Berry, but I feel like Junior wants to start his team with Josh Berry, so you would have to replace him with somebody, and I feel like the other person you replace him with would have to have some backing. And when it comes to backing, you would have to throw Brandon Jones' name in that hat too. So who do you replace him with? Do you think those drivers are going to be better than Alex Bowman? That's a toss-up at this point. I think they're both very talented, but I also think Alex Bowman's very talented. So it's one of those moves. Are you gaining something, or are you making a lateral move? And all I can say about it is I'm glad I don't have to make that decision, because I think all three of those drivers are talented in their own way. Brandon Jones has improved every single season he's been in Xfinity. Alex Bowman has improved every single season he's been in that 48 car. He always gets multiple wins. And Josh Berry is a proven winner. He's got multiple Cars Tour championships. He's got a national championship in NASCAR late models. And his first full season in the Xfinity Series, he made the Final Four. So he's definitely talented as well. Stupid Roofer says, "Hi, fellas. What's going on, Stupid Roofer? Good to see you on here." JD Mayo says, "I like the NTT Series NASCAR version of IndyCar. Yeah, so that was definitely a cool series. IndyCar is starting to get a little momentum behind it, slowly and very quietly. But IndyCar is putting on pretty good shows, and their access to the fans and stuff like that, I think would be really cool. It has been really cool, and I think that's grown the sport over there as well. So yeah, I for sure think IndyCar is actually on. I'm not an IndyCar expert. I just mainly follow, just to be totally honest, all my IndyCar information comes from David Land, and the various races I watch. David Land does a great job covering IndyCar. So if you're into that, definitely check him out. But that's basically what he says is the gospel to me, because I don't really follow anybody else on the IndyCar scene aside from like some social media, some drivers. Like I follow Scott Dixon on Instagram and stuff like that. But aside from that, all my news and stuff comes from David Land. Let's see. Old Home Guy said Mario drove Fords mainly in NASCAR, right? Yeah. So that's a good point. So I mentioned in the video, if you haven't seen it, I did release a video on this, the Andretti thing. So him coming to NASCAR, he could definitely sort of he could go several ways. He's got a Honda deal in IndyCar. He's got the Cadillac deal, which is GM. So you could see Honda, if Honda wanted to get into NASCAR, that would be their avenue. Dodge has expressed interest. Dodge can pick up. So my point there is they're not afraid to work with manufacturers, but they do have a history with Ford. And that's something I didn't think about when I made the video that I should have brought up. Mario Andretti drove Fords. Michael Andretti has driven Fords. So Ford is not out of the question. So Andretti Autosport coming over to NASCAR could definitely be a Ford car and give Ford some numbers. And obviously, he's not afraid to work with anybody. So Toyota wouldn't be out of the question either. So I think all manufacturers are on the table for Andretti Autosport coming to NASCAR. I think that's definitely a fair thing to say. Mark Barnum says F1 is a bunch of snobs. Definitely some of the teams that run it are definitely a little bit snobby. I agree with that. Happy birthday, Bumblebee, says Mark Barnum. So yeah, for those who don't know, this is Bumblebee's birthday. So go ahead and wish her a happy birthday. Seahawks are coming for those Niners, Kyle, says one wise guy. We'll see. We'll see. I wasn't expecting much out of my team this season, so I'm not going to get overconfident now. Hopefully we can take them down. Like we did in the regular season, and that's all I can say about that, because I wasn't expecting us to be this good this year. We stumbled, and in spite of ourselves, found a decent quarterback. So we got lucky all year. Mark Wachowski says Mario Andretti drove Holman Moody Fords. Yeah, that is a fact. And like I said, it wouldn't surprise me to see Andretti Autosport go forward when they come in. We'll just go ahead and say when they come into Cup, because he said he wants to get into NASCAR pretty soon. He said he basically wants to get this F1 deal done, and then he'll start working on the NASCAR, is the way I interpreted the statement. So I think for sure we'll see him in there. As an American F1 fan, I definitely am super annoyed about their snobby responses. It's expected from them, but still messed up, says Dylan Martinez. 100% agree with you. That's a really good way of putting it, Dylan. And that's exactly how I feel about it. I like F1 and I really enjoy and get into it, but just the way that they talk down to Americans, it gets really old. We get tired of it, and we don't ignore it, or we don't not know that it's going on. It's just, to be totally honest, a little bit crappy, and we get tired of hearing about it. So that's exactly how I feel about it too, Dylan. Ryan Roman, Philadelphia Eagles News. This upcoming Monday is my 21st birthday, January 16th, 21. Be responsible and have a good time, Ryan. Happy birthday to you. Mark Barnum says SS Greenlights. Well, yeah, that could be sort of an Xfinity deal, or they could buy out the SS Greenlight deal. Oh, you're talking about I don't know. I don't know. It just says SS Greenlight. So I'm not 100% sure what we're talking about there on that one. So just let me know, Mark, because I'm not following you on the SS Greenlight. I've missed some context somewhere. Jeffrey Spicoli says, "Hi gang, greetings from sunny and warm Southwest Florida. What's up, Spicoli?" Yeah, I would appreciate some of that warm, sunny Florida, because it was miserably cold today. Not the coldest it's ever been, just cold enough to be annoying. Who's your top three small team win predictions? Top three small teams that will win next season. Well, it depends on who you consider a small team. If I guess 2-car teams, I think for sure you'll see Petty GMS get another win. If you consider RCR a 2-car team as a small team, I think you'll see them get a win, but I don't really consider them a small team just because of how much technology they provide to other people. So I will exclude them. I think you see Colleague get a win. I think you'll see Colleague. If you consider Trackhouse a small team, I think Trackhouse will get a win. But if you want to go like sort of small team that you wouldn't be expecting, I think Front Row. I think you could see them get another win. I think they were creeping ever closer and ever closer. Roush, I think you could see them. I don't really consider them a small team, but that's just because I'm old. But Roush, I think you could definitely see them start to stack up some wins as well. I thought they were trending well toward the end of the season. So those would be the ones I would keep an eye on. And I mean, technically, 2311 is a small team. I think they'll get wins next season as well. So I think all those teams have an opportunity. This new car has sort of leveled the playing field. Yeah, I think that's sort of going to be the deal. Mark Barnum says SS Greenlight switching. Sorry, should have said it that way. I got you. So SS Greenlight, I think they'll go with whoever sort of goes with them. So yeah, I think them switching manufacturers. It's just whoever sort of wants to pay them to play. I think that's the situation they're in. So it does not surprise me that they switch manufacturers at all. I think they would go with whoever gives them the best deal. And I think if you're a small race team, that's what you got to do. Bell and Larson sitting it out. So that, yeah, it was. Okay, so Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson are sitting it out. I couldn't remember which combination it was. I knew Larson, but I couldn't remember if it was Bell or Stenhouse. So it is Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson are sitting out the Chili Bowl. They're trying to get the drivers better payouts for their efforts at the Chili Bowl. So that's pretty cool of them on that particular regard. Old Home Guy says, best of birthdays to you, EB. Bumblebee says, the disrespect toward American teams and drivers is one reason I've never cared for F1. I agree. That's sort of what turns me off to it a little bit too, even though I like it. It makes me not fully embrace it. And she says, I respect the talents. I just don't care for the series that's so anti-America, even when they race here. Yeah, they want our money, but they don't want us to participate. That's sort of the sentiment that's been going around since those comments have come out. Bumblebee also says they all just act snobby, and I'm not for that. I'm with that too. I'm not a big fan of looking down my nose at anybody. I think that's just kind of crappy to do as human beings. But that's just my take on it. T-Van says, love Bowman's new paint schemes, especially the black one. So there you go. He is a big fan of the black car. And I'm not saying that either one of them are necessarily ugly. I just think last year's paint schemes looked better because I thought last year's paint schemes were sort of all-timers for Alex Bowman. I think they'll be sort of regarded 10, 20 years from now when people are talking about, man, those cars look really good. I think they'll bring some of those Alex Bowman paint schemes from last year into the mix. I just don't think these ones look as good, but they definitely don't look bad. I mean, let's be honest, Hendrick never does a bad job with their paint schemes. We'll be looking forward to see Chase Elliott's, and what Exalta does is Exalta going to shake theirs up because sometimes they come with some pretty funky looking things. Bumblebee says, thanks, Old Home Guy, appreciate it. Bumblebee said, David Land's cool and great at open wheel, but he needs to stop acting like he knows anything about NASCAR. His coverage of the Ross Chastain wall ride was horrible, says Bumblebee. Yeah, but I mean, I'm pretty sure people say the same thing about me talking about F1. They're like, stay in your lane, Maloney. You don't know what you're talking about. So I'm pretty sure some people feel the exact same way about me. So I'm not going to be critical of that. Drew Chronic says Andretti might be limited shared team. Well, that could be. That would be another way to get into it. I think he's going to do whatever he needs to do to sort of get into it. But I do think it's crappy that every time he meets what they say he's got to meet to sort of be in F1, they move the goalpost on him. That's sort of what it feels like. And it's just kind of crappy. TJ Moorshed says, TJ's Camaro is back and looks better than it did before the accident. All right. So he's got his Camaro back. That's awesome, man. We're glad you're back on the road with your beloved Camaro. And hope you get many, many more miles out of it. And he also says, happy birthday, Bumblebee. Drew Chronic says, hail HBD at Epileptic Bumblebee 48. Camaro 50 49ers are going to pluck the Sea Chickens, says Camaro 50. So there you go. There's the 49ers Seahawk talk. It's interesting that they play the first game. So it's always interesting when you play a divisional team in the playoffs. It's always a tougher game than it should be because you've seen each other twice already. So I'll leave it at that. Cold Boys Racing 28. What 4 drivers do you think making the championship for this season? So much I can't. I did a championship 4, I think, in my way too early preview, so I can't remember what I said back then. But just off the top of my head, I'm going Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and then either some combination of Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick, because I feel like those guys are going to be really motivated. I also could see Tyler Reddick getting in there. And Denny Hamlin, you can never count him out. So that would sort of be my rotation for who gets in there fourth. But my big three, because I feel like they're all just in the prime of their career right now: Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott. I think are going to be solidly locked into my top 4 for as long as I'm doing this until they come out of their prime, because I think they're all priming at the same time right now, and it's pretty fun to watch. Let's see. Drew Chronic says a small team like Colleague with AJ and 9 road races. Yeah, like I said, I think Colleague gets a win for sure. I'm really interested to see, because Justin Haley was starting to put it together toward the end of the year last year when he didn't have bad luck or mechanical failure or getting a wreck or anything like that. I feel like he was starting to put it together too. So don't sleep on Haley. But AJ Allmendinger definitely at road courses, and definitely don't count him out on restrictor plate or super speedways. They don't use the restrictor plate anymore, but don't count him out on that for sure, because Colleague is really good at those as well. And especially with the tight alliance they have with RCR and Kyle Busch, I wouldn't count him out. Like I said, Kyle Busch is my pick for the Daytona 500. Drew Chronic says, I think Jimmy's trying to go full time. I don't know. I know he's going to do part time this season and sort of shake it out and see what he wants to do. And I'm kind of interested to see who else they put in that car other than Jimmy Johnson, because I feel like there's several opportunities there. Also, Colleague leaked the 13, which means they could possibly run in an all-star car in Cup. So the 13 in Cup, you could see some drivers get some opportunities over there. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch as well. Chad Huffman says, as a Wood Brothers fan, I would like to hear your honest opinions on Harrison Burton. Thank you. So Chad Huffman, I think the Wood Brothers is definitely the 4th best equipment that Penske has. So I'll start there. I don't think they're necessarily on equal footing with Penske right now. And that being said, not making excuses for Harrison Burton, because I think he was rushed up too early. But with the exception of Ryan Blaney and Paul Menard, who we know Ryan Blaney was basically funded by Penske because Penske wanted him in a car. He just put him in the 21 for one season. So we know that equipment was good. And Paul Menard brought plenty of funding. So we know that equipment was good. Aside from them, nobody has looked good in that 21 car. And it's nothing against the Wood Brothers. I think it's more of a budget thing. And I think last year I was hoping to see them make a leap. But like I said, I think Harrison Burton was rushed up too early. So my official thoughts on Harrison Burton are this, that he was rushed up too early, but I don't necessarily disagree with the thought process behind it. He wanted to get maximum laps in this new car to sort of be on level playing field. So I think if they stick with Harrison Burton for a few seasons and he develops into the driver that we saw win several races in Xfinity, his first or second year in Xfinity, then I think they will have something there. I just think it's a whole lot of unknowns over there. We don't know what you got with a driver, and we don't know how much funding he's bringing. Is he bringing enough funding to sort of close that gap? Even with this next gen car, is he bringing enough money to close that gap to get the maximum good equipment over there with the Wood Brothers? But I do think with the right situation, the Wood Brothers will give him the car to get the job done. And I think if he gets enough experience under his belt, I think for sure that he will show his full potential. And I think his full potential is definitely to be able to win some races. I can see him as sort of a Austin Dillon, Eric Almirola, turns into a really consistent driver that gets you some wins here and there. Mark Barnum says Blaine Perkins going to SS Greenlight and switching to Chevy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he brought some money, and I think Chevrolet is sort of tied in with Blaine Perkins as well somehow. I think Blaine Perkins, I might be off on this, but if I'm remembering correctly, I think Blaine Perkins is a Chevrolet driver. So I think that's what that deal is about. I think they're getting a little bit of extra money from Chevrolet, and Blaine Perkins is, of course, a good driver, but he's got some funding behind him. So I think that is what coincided with them switching to Chevrolets. T-Van says, I tried to get into F1 years ago, just couldn't do it. They were a-holes 15 years ago. They were probably even worse 15 years ago now. But he says now they're even worse, especially towards Americans. Happy birthday, EB. I feel like Bernie Ecclestone was even bigger D-bag to Americans than the current regime. I think right now the teams are being the D-bags, and I think the FIA is actually sort of more open toward Americans because the FIA is not stupid. They know where the money's coming from. They know the American market if they can tap into the American market, having 11 teams, they would still make more money with 11 teams than they're making right now without having a huge presence in the American market or a bigger presence than they currently have, which I think is very, very possible. CUDA 70, and I think another point to make about that is all the good favor that they've created, all the momentum they've got going, if they keep fooling around with this and making terrible statements like that, they're going to lose all that momentum and they're going to turn off a good deal of those new American fans that they've garnered. CUDA 70 says, what happened to all the X-Cup cars from 2 years ago? Most of them went down to the Xfinity series and got repurposed for Xfinity. CUDA 70, so that's where the vast majority of them went, and some of them are show cars in like museum, like legitimate museums and stuff like that. So that's the main two places they went to. Bumblebee says, thanks for all the birthday wishes, guys. CUDA 70 says, what happened? I just read that one. TJ Moorshed said, is it a missed opportunity if NASCAR doesn't put a 75th anniversary logo on the windshield in place of the manufacturer logos on all the Cup cars this year? I would like to see it somewhere more prominent than the side of the car. So yeah, I would be all on board with that. Put it in the middle and then put the manufacturer logo to the other side. And then the name is the name on the left or on the right? I think the name is on the left. So have the name on the left and have like to the mid left, have the manufacturer, and then to the far right, you could have that 75th anniversary logo. That would be pretty cool. I agree with that. Old Home Guy says, watched you on YouTube last night. A guy getting a 2001, watched on YouTube last night, a guy getting, I didn't get a 2001 Camaro. A 2001 Camaro Earnhardt edition, number 24 of 33, signed instrument cluster with 800. Oh my goodness, what a steal. That's awesome. That's a good find, old home guy. That's pretty cool. I might have to try to see if I can look that one up. Yeah, those old Earnhardt Camaros were pretty rad. They actually had an Earnhardt SS Camaro that was pretty rad too. Not the front wheel drive ones, but I'm talking about like the 80s models with the arrow window. It had like that silver. It might not have technically been an Earnhardt edition, but it had that silver stripe at the bottom with the red pin line. Those things were bad to the bone. I love those cars. Probably one of the best cars Chevrolet ever made was that 80s Monte Carlo with arrow glass. Daryl Adams says Andretti to Cup probably won't be as difficult as some are thinking. JTG Doherty could be quietly for sale, and they have a charter. Yeah, they've actually come out and said somebody within JTG Doherty. I can't say that word, so I'm just going to call it Doherty or JTG. They basically have come out and said that it is up for sale for the right price. So if Michael Andretti can come up with that and just take over that operation, and hell, maybe even just partner with them. Like he doesn't have to buy them all the way out, right? Partner with them, run sort of a superstar car. He could pull all kinds of superstars, I would imagine, from other various forms of racing. And he's not afraid to put somebody in a superstar car and then just have the 37 sort of be your main car or whatever number they would go with, obviously, with the Andretti deal. That would, I think that would be a really good one. T-Van says F1 is a hyped up Victoria's Secret show with horsepower. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of politics in F1, and if you're not up on the political side of the game, I agree with that. So there is a lot of that too. Like, it's a complex sport to watch. There's so much drama around it. I wouldn't say Victoria's Secret so much as it's an actual soap opera, which is why the whatever that what is it, Need for Speed or whatever that documentary they got on Netflix is, which is a really good documentary. I just can't remember the name of it. But that's why it's so popular, because there's so much drama in F1, and they're just telling a soap opera with it every time, even though they embellish some of it anyways. But you got to expect that from TV. Xfinity Series next year, I'm going Brandon Jones. I think I'm a big fan of the Menards car. I think he's got a gorgeous looking race car, and I think he's going to have a great season as well. His only problem is his teammate is Josh Berry, and Josh Berry is really good. You also got a hungry Justin Allgaier trying to finally get that elusive championship in the Xfinity Series. So his problem is going to be his teammates, I think. in my opinion. Matt Howard says, my question is, what number is Jimmy Johnson going to run for GMS Racing? My guess would be 49. That's what I'm thinking. My outside chance would be 44. So those would be the two I would lean toward. But I think it's going to be number 49, and they are going to make some announcement tomorrow. A lot of people are saying it's going to be the number announcement. Some people are saying it's going to be a number announcement and a name announcement. So we will see what that news is tomorrow, and I'll try to bring that to you if I can. Chad Huffman says, "Oh, no problem, Chad. I do what I can, man. Any questions you got, I'll try my best to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I'll just tell you I don't know the answer, and I'll do the research and see if I can find the answer for you at a later date." Harrison Burton wasn't even very good his last year in Xfinity. He did have a soft or a whatever year slump it was in Xfinity, and that was in a Gibbs car. So yeah, but we've seen people struggle in Gibbs car, and not every Gibbs car is the 54. So I'll go out there and say that too. Same thing with Kyle Busch. His trucks back then, not every car was the 54 car or truck in trucks. So not all Gibbs equipment is the same. I'll put it that way. And who was it? The construction guy. Daggum. Levine Family Racing found that out the hard way, didn't they? So Drew Chronic says 3 races in the USA for F1. Yeah, so they're okay with taking U.S. money, but they're not okay with accepting a new U.S. team. At least the teams aren't. I think the FIA has a better. They're seeing the forest, and the teams are seeing the trees. I think the FIA realizes with an American team that has the potential of being competitive. Nothing against Haas, they do the best they can, but an F1 team with a chance to be competitive from the United States would bring in a ton of money. Let's just be real about that. Haas brings in a ton of money, and they're not even good just because U.S. fans are like, we finally got somebody to pull for, yay. And Kevin Magnussen's career has been wasted. He's one of the best drivers out there, in my opinion, and he's got nothing to drive most weekends. Nothing against Haas. Like I said, they do the best they can with the budget they got. TJ Moorshed says, opinions on the new 48 Ally schemes. Just in case you missed it, I like the old Ally scheme better. I think these are okay. I'm not thinking these schemes are ugly by any stretch of the imagination, but I felt like last year's paint schemes were basically iconic for the Ally car. And these are just a step below it, in my opinion, but they're not bad schemes. I just like last year's better, is the best way to say it. Mark Wachowski says, Harrison is young, smart, been around racing his whole life. The Wood brothers are a great jump-off team for him. Everyone ain't Earnhardt. So there you go. That's sort of where I'm at with it. Like everybody compares, like basically if you're not Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt, Kevin Harvick, if you're not one of those, Kyle Busch, if you're not one of those drivers, you suck. And that's where like a lot of NASCAR fans look at the sport. Whereas most people that are in racing, they don't look at it that way. They're like, this guy's pretty good. He's not a Kevin Harvick or a Kyle Busch, but he's pretty daggum good. You know, with the right things around him, maybe we could get him to another level. And I think that's sort of the gamble that you take with Harrison Burton, with any of these young drivers. Like you look at Tyler Reddick's first few years, you saw the potential there, but he was really streaky. Now the last couple of years with Tyler Reddick, you've seen the real Tyler Reddick. You see what he can do. So you just got to stick with a guy. Joey Logano is another one. Joey Logano had a struggle his first 2 or 3 years in Cup. Yeah, he won some races here and there, but he was streaky. You could see the talent, but you didn't really see what he could do till he got to Penske. But when he got to Penske, he got in the right situation, got the right crew chief for him. He took off, and you know the rest is history. So that's what I'm saying. It's a team sport more than people realize, and not everybody has to be a champion to be good at racing. Austin Dillon's a really good race car driver. Eric Almirola is a really good race car driver. They're not Kevin Harvick, they're not Kyle Busch, but I still think they're very good race car drivers. I think Harrison Burton absolutely has a chance to be an Eric Almirola, Austin Dillon, somebody like that. But does he have a chance? Will I be willing to go out on a limb and say, does he have a chance to be a Kyle Busch or a Kevin Harvick? I haven't seen enough of him yet to know that. So that's all I can say about that. But I think he's definitely got enough potential to be a good, solid race car driver. There's no doubt about that. Philip Canavan says Andretti and Junior should partner together for a Cup car. That would be insane. If you had, oh my God, Philip Canavan, man, what a statement. I hadn't even thought about this, but this is probably the best idea that should happen. Andretti Earnhardt or Earnhardt Andretti, that would be the question. Like, that would be the question. I guess because it's Cup, you would have to go Earnhardt Andretti, right? But if you had Earnhardt Andretti, these other teams wouldn't even have to show up, because just on merchandise alone, they could fund, they wouldn't even need sponsors. They would just sell t-shirts at the racetrack and they would make enough money to run that whole deal. Oh my God. Could you imagine Earnhardt Andretti racing in NASCAR? That would be insane. Like somebody needs to run that up the chain to Andretti and Dale Jr. Earnhardt Andretti Motorsport, or Andretti Earnhardt Motorsport, however you want to do it. There you go. There's your team. They need to get that going. That would be insane. Like, you want me to make that a poll question? Like, which way should the name go? Let's see here. Best team name. Here we go. Can't spell for nothing. Hopefully I spelled these right. All right, there we go. Finally got it typed out there. So let's see here. Let's see. T-Van says, I want the bow ties and the blue oval emblems back on the front of cars. Says T-Van. I do too. They technically they tried that at Hendrick, but Chevrolet has gone with the gold emblem, and that's the issue with Chevrolet. Chevrolet needs to go back to just the outline of the bow tie. That's the issue with that. And yeah, Ford can definitely pull it off, but they've decided to go with just the badge on the grill. But yeah, I do miss the good old days where you had the logo on the actual hood, or at least the very front of the car, because some of those Thunderbirds, the hood curved into the front of the nose, so it was actually on the technically it was on the nose, even though it was technically on the hood. If you remember some of those old Thunderbirds. But yeah, I missed the old red bow tie on the black Chevrolet Goodwrench Monte Carlo, or the white bow tie on the DuPont car. Those DuPont cars were always sharp, even though Jeff Gordon ruined my life several occasions because I was an Earnhardt fan. Old Home Guy says, do you ever check into Jeffrey Earnhardt's Yugo, see if it's still around? Haven't been able to find it. I have looked to at least try to get a picture of it. Haven't even been able to get a picture of it. So if anybody can find a picture of it, feel free to post it. The only thing I really mess with is Twitter. So feel free to post it on my Twitter, or just let me know where it's at in the chat or something like that. So let's see here. But yeah, haven't been able to confirm if it's still around or not. Mark Wachowski, Jimmy Johnson 75, just guessing. Like, that would make sense. The 75 would make sense. 57 would make sense. 84 would make sense. Chevy Man says, if you look back very early, Jimmy Johnson was 84, if I remember right. Yeah, he's run the 84 before, and he's also run maybe an 82 for Randy Moss, and I think he ran the 5 car. Lowe's was doing a 5% discount. He's run the 5 car in Cup and trucks and stuff too. So yeah, I think 84, because that's just the reverse of 48. That's another one that a lot of people are thinking. But I forget who leaked it from Petty GMS, but I think it's going to be the 49, because I think they accidentally leaked it. T-Van says, would love to see Little Gator get a championship finally. He has deserved a few. He is the Mark Martin of the Xfinity Series. That's a good way of putting that. Yeah. Justin Allgaier is definitely the Mark Martin of the Xfinity Series. There is absolutely no doubt about that. And hopefully he doesn't end his career like Mark Martin. Hopefully he does get one before he calls it quits, because he's been so close. You're right. He's been so close so many times. Earnhardt Andretti at 78%. Not surprising from a NASCAR channel, but I think if I ask this abroad, it might be a little bit closer. But there you go. There's let's start that rumor. Let me get yelled at for that one. I'll take that heat. But yeah, that would be like the greatest idea ever. I can't believe I didn't think of that, but I'm so glad. Philip, appreciate that, man. That took me back. That's a crazy good idea. I can't believe they might have talked about it, but I can't believe it hasn't happened. Like, that would be the ultimate NASCAR team, or just the ultimate race team, period. Brett's Brewery says, cheers, Brett's Brewery, even though I'm drinking water here. Let's see. I think Deegan will run a SHR third car in the Xfinity for a few more races. Oh, I skipped Daryl Adams. My fault. I do think, yeah, I'm with you on that, Mark Barnum. I think Haley will for sure run several Xfinity races, probably more than 3 or 4, if I'm guessing. Daryl Adams says SS Greenlight switched to Chevy and signed an alliance with RCR. Good for SS Greenlight, but man, Haley Deegan can't catch a break. Yeah, I still think that they'll field a SHR car though, Daryl. So I don't think she's out of the running for an Xfinity deal just yet. Let's see, just not like a full season this year, obviously, because she's running trucks, but I think she'll get several starts in Xfinity. Old Home Guy says, who thinks NASCAR street racing is an idea? I can't believe they gave up Road America date. Yeah, like to give up Road America for a street race is it's not good. I'll just say it that way. It's just not good. Road America is a time-honored traditional track that is just beloved in the Midwest. So it's a big bummer that they chose to do that. And not to take anything away, like the people that want the Chicago street race, I'm not trying to take anything away from that. If you want to see the Chicago street race, that's all good. But I think 100% Road America is going to put on a better show, because street racing, very, very rarely does street racing put on a good show. I hope to eat those words. I hope the street race at Chicago proves me wrong. I hope I'm totally wrong about that, but very rarely does a street race put on a good show. T-Van says, I want to see Elliott Sadler come back and run SRX and Casey Kane. Yeah, so Elite Precision actually made his dream list of drivers. So check out his video for the SRX. I'm gonna check that one out again, and sort of I might do a video to add to it, because he did a good job with that video. And unfortunately, YouTube was going through some things when he released it, and he didn't get a whole lot of views on it. So check out Elite Precision's video on that. But yeah, I would like to see Elliott Sadler. There's several guys I'd like to see Dream Scenario run the SRX. So I'm going to rewatch his video, and then I'll either add to it or come up with my own list. But he did a good job on that video, so check him out. Say Kyle, not Cal. They should call it EA Motorsports. That would be pretty funny. Say Kyle, not Cal. That would you think the lawyers at EA Sports would get involved in that one? That would be hilarious. Aaron Flynn in the DEI building. Yeah, that would be even funnier. Like if they could buy out Teresa, like just throw stupid money at Teresa to get the DEI building and do it out of that. They could open up the Deerhead room or whatever it's called. That would be the ultimate feel-good story. We'll put it that way. Billy Joe says alphabetical order, Andretti first. So there you go. Like that's what I was thinking, but I'm thinking because it's a race team, but the alphabetical order would be the politically correct way to avoid any conflict, right? So Andretti Earnhardt, alphabetical order would work 100%. That would be cool. Obviously, whoever puts in the most money would have their name first, would be my guess. But if they put in equal money, I would defer to alphabetical order. So there you go. There's a good argument for Andretti Earnhardt. It has a little bit better ring to it for some reason too. Andretti Earnhardt Andretti, like they both sound really cool because they're both really cool and phenomenal names. But I can see the argument for that. But I think for like a NASCAR team, I think most people are going to go with that Earnhardt name first. But man, God, could you imagine the merchandise they would sell? Oh man, that would be insane. That would be completely insane. I think Junior said he sold $4 million worth of Sundrop shirts at North Wilkesboro in one day. So think about that. $4 million at North Wilkesboro, where they only had about 21 to 30,000 people. He did $4 million in that day. Imagine at Daytona, Andretti Earnhardt T-shirts. Imagine how much money he would make there. Oh my God! I can't even wrap my head around it. Anyway, Philip Canavan says Andretti and Junior should name the team EAM. That would be cool. Or AEM. That would be cool. I think AEM is already a electronics provider for high performance stuff, if I'm not mistaken. I think they do control modules or something. Daryl Adams says Petty GMS possible number for Jimmy. Most are thinking it will be 49 with the 75th anniversary this season. Although I really don't like Jimmy Johnson 75. I'm in. Yeah, there you go. Johnson 75 would be good. I think it's going to be 49 though. That's just because I think it was Mike Beam that leaked it. But Mike Beam basically he more or less confirmed that it's going to be the 49. So if it's not the 49, I'm going to be super surprised. But I think 44, 84, 75 would work. Anything he's driven in the past, anything Petty has historically had in the past would work. Mark Wachowski says Dave Marcus was a great driver, didn't have the results he deserved, but was thought of enough to shake Earnhardt's race cars down. Test his new stuff, and he did a lot of testing for Goodyear. Yeah, he was basically a Goodyear man. Good point there, Mark Wachowski. He was definitely a Goodyear man. He made his name very well with Goodyear during the tire strikes and all that stuff like that, the tire wars, the early tire wars. But he was definitely a really good race car driver. He's got a handful of wins, if I'm not mistaken. But he was so, like, he did his own thing. Like, I'm not going to take anything away from him. But if he had been in some of these other guys' race cars, oh my goodness, he would have had so many more wins. He's underrated driver. I think was it Iceberg? I think Iceberg did a list of underrated drivers. I haven't got a chance to watch that yet. I need to watch it. But I would put him on that list. I would put a lot of people at Bill Davis Racing on that list, including Ward Burton. Yeah, I might need to watch. That might be another one I need to do a response video or whatever, just add on video or whatever, because those both interested me. But yeah, he was definitely one of those names that he doesn't get the credit he deserves for the level of driver that he was, and still is. He's still racing. He still does time trials out in the desert with a modified old Monte Carlo. Aaron Flynn says the name would be JRM. So there you go. Junior Racing Motorsports with Andretti. So there you go, Aaron Flynn. I got you, man. I hear you. Chevy Man with NASCAR running road course. I've been falling asleep at the races. Yeah, a lot of people don't care for the road courses. I'm a road course person, but I realize that most people don't share the same passion I have for it. So I can understand that. Back in the day, before I got into like Forza and stuff like that, before I really appreciated road course racing, I was the same way. I was like, oh, we got another road course, except for Watkins Glen. For whatever reason, I always liked Watkins Glen. Even just watching it on TV, I've never even been there, but I've heard going there, it's an absolute scene, and hope to make it up there one day. Daryl Adams says Andretti Earnhardt Motorsports sounds good. Dodging the Papa H can't be linked to a fifth charter. Yeah, like it lines up perfectly. It lines up perfectly. I wonder if they thought about it, but that would be really cool. Like if it happened, like Philip Canavan shaking up the whole game with that comment. That's awesome, man. Philip, they need to hire you. They need to hire you for like strategy and stuff like that, man. That's a great idea. Like if that happened, like, oh my God, I can't even wrap my head around how awesome that would be. Old Home Guy says, imagine if some unknowing racer picks a fight with Jeffrey Earnhardt, not aware of his MMA history, says Old Home Guy. Yeah, they would eat their lunch for sure. Jeffrey Earnhardt, for those who don't know, he's had 3 or 4 MMA fights, and he's still in good shape now. I think he's still rocking a 6-pack, if I'm not mistaken. So at least from the last fish, he likes to fish with his hands, noodling or whatever it's called. He's still rocking a 6-pack. He's not a guy you want to tangle with at all. Jeffrey Earnhardt is he's a man. So don't bite off more than you can chew if you get into a wrecking contest with him. Old Home Guy says number 44 number has history with Petty already, right? Yeah, and Jimmy Johnson also drove it in ASA. Old Home Guy, so that one lines up too. But the 49 and 49 is obviously 7x7, so that one also lines up. More interesting, I'm kind of wondering, does Petty GMS change its name to like Petty GMS with Jimmy Johnson, something like that? I think that's another thing you could also possibly look at going forward. Mark Wachowski says Mario won the Daytona 500 in the 11 car. Dale, of course, was in the 3. Name it 311 Racing. So there you go. I think 311 was an R&B group, so there might be some licensing right there, but I don't think there would be a whole lot because it's 2 totally different things. So 311 Racing would be pretty cool. Let's see, T-Van, A&E Motorsports sounds the best, but yes, it needs to be located at DEI. That would be like the ultimate, like if they could get the DEI property and do it out of DEI, that would be rad. John Lewis says still couldn't. Obviously, this is completely, we're living in fantasy land, but we're having a good time with it. So like, just in case you're tuning in late, no, Earnhardt Andretti is not a thing that's going to happen. This is something that Philip brought up. And we're having fun with it, but it would be like the greatest idea ever. Just like I'm saying, on merchandise alone, they would be able to fund the team better than probably most of the NASCAR Cup teams. John Lewis says I still couldn't sell enough T-shirts to get into F1. Just saying, like, oh yeah, like F1's a different ball game. F1's like 10 times the budget of a NASCAR team. is what they say. So John Lewis says, oh, same comment twice. Let's see. T-Van says it's time for Teresa to move on and let the True family have what Dale built. I think a lot of people feel that way, 100%. No doubt about it. Terry Labonte ran the 44 Piedmont Airlines Monte Carlo first championship for Billy Hagan. Billy Hagan. That's a reference not a lot of people are going to remember. Good call there, Mark Wachowski. I appreciate that. Mark Barnum says road courses have grown on me. I like Sonoma. Yeah, Sonoma. Like I like all the road courses now. I just know I'm in the minority on that. So I don't, I'm not going to sit here and talk about road courses when a lot of people, I know for sure, don't care for them. At least not a lot of NASCAR fans. But I like them, and I like Sonoma. I think Road America was one of the better ones. I would love to see them race at VIR, but I don't know if that's set up for a NASCAR event at all. John Lewis says, so what's up with the sneak peek of the 13 car? We're thinking it's going to be a Cup car. Like we don't know for sure. They'll probably announce it tomorrow. Chris Rice will probably announce it tomorrow if he can keep himself contained. He might get bored and release it tonight while we're streaming here. But it's definitely going to be like an all-star team that they run in the Cup Series. I'm almost like 90% sure about that. It could be like an extra all-star team they run in Xfinity or something like that. But I think it's going to be an all-star team they run in Cup. Much like Trackhouse's Project 91 and much like the Petty GMS car that'll be driven by Jimmy Johnson, which we're assuming is going to be the 49 or the 44 or the 84 or whatever number it is. But they'll announce that tomorrow. We'll know what number that one is tomorrow. Bo Darville says, the Bandit, what's up? Two things will be a letdown this year: Chicago Street Course and Jimmy Johnson. So yeah, a lot of people thinking Jimmy Johnson doesn't have anything left in the tank. We're going to find out. We're going to find out for sure. Camaro 50, Petty Andretti Racing would be on par. Yeah, there you go. How many names can we squeeze in there? Petty, Andretti, Johnson, however you say that guy's last name, Marty Gallagher. That would be a mouthful. They would have to figure out an acronym for that. But Petty Andretti Racing would be on par for sure. They would sell a ton of stuff. I feel like Earnhardt has the momentum right now, though. I feel like the Earnhardt T-shirts sell just a little bit better than the Petty ones. Although if Eric Jones keeps doing what he's doing and Noah reaches his full potential, they might start to catch up with them just a little bit, but it's going to be a long road to hoe. Philip Canavan says, I like the road courses, but not the street courses. When I watch Indy, yeah, so street courses are typically tighter and there's less passing, and it just makes for a less interesting race to most people who don't necessarily prefer a particularly technical race with not a ton of passing or overtaking. If you're an F1 aficionado. Mark Barnum says another one not to mess with is Makina Hasa in Makina Hase. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right at all. In sprint cars, she is a black belt in Taekwondo and was trained by the guy that did the Mr. Miyagi in the Karate movie. So there you go. That's pretty cool. Yeah, like never sleep on people. Like the general rule of thumb is if you're coming from a guy that worked at a bar, the general and used to be when I stopped cooking, I would go out there or bartending. Whenever my shift ended, sometimes I would rotate to be a bouncer to make the extra money. So two things you look for in a bar as a bouncer: big forearms and cauliflower ears. Cauliflower ears being when their ears are all mangled up. Like if you've seen an MMA fighter, if you see one of those two things, you know you better have at least an extra guy with you to take that guy down because he's going to be trouble. So big forearms, cauliflower ears. If you see that at a bar, just leave that guy alone. Just lose that argument on purpose. Move on. Whatever you got to do, it's not going to be worth your time. Unless you also have cauliflower ears and big forearms and want to show out at a non-MMA event. I don't know. You do you. Don't let me tell you how to live. Big Wheel Hawaii, what's up, man? Man, you are doing a great job. I really enjoy your site. I appreciate it, Big Wheel. And what's up, Hawaii? Good to see y'all. As always, Mike Ora calling Jimmy Johnson's pole position for the Daytona 500. So there you go. He's pretty good at putting cars on the pole at Daytona. He's got a history of doing it. He's got an RCR basically backed car. So I'm pretty sure that they'll make a good run at it. I don't know if he'll get the pole. It's so hard to predict the pole. The only person who I ever could predict get the pole with certainty was Dale Earnhardt Sr. And those couple of years, Ricky Stenhouse had that absolute rocket ship with JTG. Like I had no problem. I was like, yeah, Ricky Stenhouse gonna get the pole because he had a rocket ship. Those few years he had that NASCAR. Oh my goodness, I don't know what they did to that thing, but it was trimmed out. Aaron Flynn says with the Hendrick connection, Chevy is going to be hard to beat for the next few years. Yeah, I agree, especially now that Hendrick and RCR are sort of sharing notes. You saw the level of performance raise quite a bit for Chevrolet last couple seasons with that change in strategy. Old Home Guy says still going with the 6 at Daytona 500, and the 43 wins the points championship. So there you go. Picking old Eric Jones to win the points. That's the most aggressive thing there. Brad Keselowski is definitely really good at plate tracks, so that's not as big of a shocker. But Eric Jones is coming into his own, and what people don't see behind the scenes is Petty GMS is building up that team more and more every season. So it's not out of the question if they continue to improve and get better, in my opinion. Ryan Perez, I'm not the biggest road course fan, but I really do like the racing. Coda's another one. I've never been to Coda, but everybody that goes to Coda talks about how good it is. And Watkins Glen, yeah, and Watkins Glen is an experience. Everybody that's gone to Watkins Glen always tells me how fun it is. It's just sort of like a Talladega-esque. It's just sort of a party on the infield type deal. Stephen Emilio Jr., if you've never been to Riverside, then you have not been to a road course. My friends, Riverside was badass. Yeah, Riverside, I've never been to it, but I would like to go there and see what's left of it. I met a few friends from California at Phoenix, and they were telling me there is still a little bit of Riverside left. But yeah, you can watch it on YouTube though. They put on some great races. Riverside used to be the first race of the year before Daytona, and they put on some hellacious races at Riverside. It was pretty fun to watch. At least it was fun to watch for me on YouTube. Tim Richmond and Darrell Waltrip put on a nice battle one year. That I'm remembering. Let's see. Mark Bukowski says a good name would be the same name the Three Stooges lawyers were, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. Pretty good. I was an old Three Stooges fan myself. I used to watch the Three Stooges either before or after cartoons came on. I can't remember. It might have been after the cartoons went off, but either way, I used to watch Three Stooges with my dad back in the day, back when you had the old bunny ears and all that good junk. On the TV. John Lewis says NA is still Jones. No, still Jones takes the 500. So there you go. Got another Jones for the 500. Could you imagine if the 43 won another 500? That would be so rad, man. Let's see. I think Junior can't use Earnhardt. I think he won that case. He won that case, and I think his brother won the case too, that because they were born with that last name, they can use it. But they did go to, I know Kerry went to court over it for his business, so he can use it. And I know Dale Jr. won the rights to use his own name, so he can still use Dale Jr. as well. He can use both of his, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look that one up. Bumblebee saying, yeah, he can use his own name, and Teresa can't keep him from using his name. So there was an issue back in the early to mid 2000s, whenever that went down originally. Teresa had the rights to his Dale Jr. name, or his stylized signature, his Dale Jr. stylized signature. Like if you see the stylized Dale Earnhardt, how Dale Earnhardt signed his, and then the Dale Jr. stylized, there was a court battle over that particular issue. Could he use the Dale Jr. name in that capacity? So he can still use his name, but some stuff like that, the stylized logo, I can't remember if Junior won the stylized logo part of it either. But some stuff, I'm pretty sure he did. I think he did win the stylized logo part of it too. So I think he can use all of his name fully. So I think he would be good to go there. But good looking out, because that was an issue back in the day. Drew Chronic says I think it should be allowed. Yeah, 100%. He should be allowed to use it. Carrie is the one that Teresa argues with over the Earnhardt name, says T-Van. Yeah, and she lost that case, by the way. So he was able to put his Earnhardt name on the Earnhardt home furniture or whatever they were doing with that particular deal. He won that, to my knowledge. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I'm pretty sure he won that last time I checked. Old Home Guy says, as name recognition, Jimmy went to Hendricks. It could be Jimi Hendrix with the purple haze color. Purple haze 48, Jimi Hendrix. That would be. They missed an opportunity there. Allied missed an opportunity there. At the very least, a commercial for Darlington Throwback Week. That would have been epic. So they did miss they missed an opportunity there for sure. Jimi Hendrix, Purple Haze 48. That would be pretty awesome. Mark Barnum says my brother was stationed out in Riverside in the Air Force and did some pit work then. That's pretty cool. That's one track I really wish would come back and we could see it. But unfortunately, that one's gone forever. The other one being that they built a really fancy one in Canada. I can't recall the name of it off the top of my head. But that one I really wanted to go see. It was the most modern racetrack of its time, and it only lasted a few years before it got torn down, probably for real estate. So I'll have to check that. I wish I could have checked that one out too. Drew Chronic says, cool, thanks. Escobar, what's up, man? Aside from the Front Row and Spire, what other Cup teams do you see disappearing? JTG Doherty could get bought out. Spire could get bought out. Front Row could get bought out. I think you might not see Rick Ware get bought out because he's mega rich, but you could see somebody invest with him, sort of like Tony Stewart did with Haas. What a lot of people don't remember is back in the day, Haas used to be what Rick Ware Racing is. Then Tony Stewart bought into Haas, and that's when Stewart Haas got good. So you could see somebody like Andretti buy into Rick Ware Racing, where it would be Andretti Ware Racing, and then all of a sudden, like it would start to get really good really quick in that situation. So I could see a situation like that for Rick Ware. I could see a situation like that for Live Fast if somebody wanted to join them. So I think there's a lot of teams out there that's up for grabs where you could, and there's a situation where you could get three teams, right? You partner with Spire and Live Fast and Andretti. So Andretti lives fast with Spire or something crazy like that. Then you've got three teams. Then you're a mega team, and you still got one extra. Open spot where you could sort of run an all-star car, like some of these teams are starting to run all-star cars. Mike Ora says, Bumblebee, LOL, run into you everywhere. So there you go. Bumblebee, one of the most famous moderators in the game. So glad to have her on board and working. Stephen Amelio Jr. says, remember Riverside was the first race and the last race, and there was also a race in the middle of the year in June. Yeah, that's for sure. So Riverside did have 2 dates. So that is another good point to make. I wasn't alive back then, but I do watch enough old seasons that it's crazy. Like I wasn't really around for Riverside, but it's one of the tracks I miss the most. So like, I don't know, because it always put on, like, you can watch all the old Riverside races. None of them were really bad. I can't remember like a straight out somebody where they got blown all the way out at Riverside. It always, at the very end, it was sort of like Darlington and the Southern 500. At the very end, it was always a good finish or something crazy happened. So it was always a good track, and I hate that it's gone, man. I hate that it's gone for some stupid shopping mall that never got all the way built. F real estate. I'm with slap shoes on that. F real estate people. They're worse than the freaking devil, man. Mike Ora, not all real estate people. If you're in real estate, obviously, you know what I'm getting at, though. The scummy real estate people that take away racetracks. F them. Rick Ware Racing series brought to you by NASCAR. Yeah, so NASCAR did sponsor. NASCAR actually sponsored Live Fast for a couple races last year. I remember when Petty was not doing good, NASCAR sponsored Petty. So for all the slack we give NASCAR, they actually do. They do actually do a pretty good job of trying to keep teams afloat and help them out when they can. Like nobody really actually talks about the good stuff NASCAR does sometimes. So maybe I should make a video about that. That'll get 10 views and people will hate it. All the good things NASCAR does, because nobody wants to see anything positive on YouTube. If I put something negative and hateful out there and angry, it'll get double the views of anything positive I put out there. That's the craziest thing I learned about YouTube. Nobody cares about positive information in this day and age, which is unfortunate, or the algorithm doesn't push it out. However it works, I don't know how YouTube works. I'm just out here making videos. Anyway, Robert Mark says, howdy from Canada. What's up, Canada? Better late than never. That's right. That's the story of my life. I used to be on time all the time, so I started working with Craig Moore. Now I'm never on time because bought into the race team culture. If you know Craig Moore, you know the inside joke there. Anyway, old home guy Haas was in legal trouble when Tony bought in. Yeah, for sure, but without a doubt, without Tony buying in, they would still be a terrible race car team. You see it in F1. He just doesn't have the organization to make a good race car team. He needs a partner for the strategic side of it, without a doubt. John Lewis says, heck, they could create a charter if the name or the money is right. Yeah, that's another thing. Like just fill out the field and like nobody gets a free shot anymore. Go to 44 car field, like most tracks would support that. So I don't know. As long as you leave 2 or 3 spots for a guy that builds his own car, we could add as many charters as long as there's two or three open spots for a regular team that's not chartered. I will say that. And really, I wish there was no such thing as a charter. You just had to qualify on speed like you did back in the day, because then qualifying would mean something. But we've been down that trail before. Not going to happen, so no need to talk about it. Rick Ware got 4 teams that are guaranteed spots in the series, so that's sexy to a mega sponsor wanting in. I mean, that's true. That's true. I think he's down to 3 teams. I think he sold one of them because he was renting. I think when he had 4 teams, he was renting one from. I think he was renting one from Richard Petty. Let's see here. He gets all right to his name. It was his birth name, and he was and was her married name, says Stephen D'Amelio Jr. Yeah, but she is the executor of his estate, so he handles that name. But you're right, he does get all the rights to his name, 100%. But he still had to fight for that stylized signature in court. I think that's what the actual fight was about. Mark Wachowski says Gene Haas was in prison when him and Tony became co-owners. Yeah, 100%. Gene Haas did some type of tax fraud or something like that. For those who don't know, so he had a little stretch in prison, and that was during the Stuart Haas when that came together. Mark Warner says my brother came back from Cali and the Air Force, had a 1958 Chevrolet Impala convertible, had a 348 tri-power with a 4-speed or a 410 gear in it. Not 100% on that one. I think you're saying a 4-flat gear, so a 4-flat gear on it. John Lewis, that dream weekend at the Indy 500 and a Cup race the same weekend. The 58 Impala is a good-looking car, by the way. Just to finish off that thought, John Lewis, that'd be a dream weekend, the Indy 500 and a Cup race the same weekend at Indy. That would be really rad. Like, that would be really cool. That would be something that I think would get tons of fans in the seats, and it's something that you can make happen now because Roger Penske owns basically the IndyCar series. Not even basically, he owns the IndyCar series, so it's something they could easily make happen if they really wanted to. Old Home Guy says Freedom Factory had circle track racing last weekend, so there you go, Freedom Factory breaking in the season rights and getting us primed up for the Roar before the 24 and then the Rolex 24 itself. Drew Chronic says now when they sell a team, it's worth something. Yeah, like I'm not taking anything away from the charters. They have their upside and their downside. There's no doubt about that. Mark Wachowski says my dad had a 58 Chevy wagon. Those were awesome. Those are awesome. I'm the old Nomads, or I'm partial to those as well. Tri-5 Chevy Nomad. Miss those things, man. Even though I never had one, I don't know how I missed it if I didn't have it. But they're cool. NASCAR could sell 2 more charters and split money with the teams. They could sort of do like the F1 deal, where the teams split money in that particular regard. Escobar says, is it worth paying the high price for a charter instead of racing without one? Do you know the difference and what the difference in payouts would be? It's a significant difference, if I'm not mistaken. But nobody will show you their numbers. But from my understanding, it is a significant difference in payout for your actual competition payout for where you finish in the race. But nobody has actually come out, and I'm pretty sure NASCAR told them not to come out and show it. So if you notice, the payouts have disappeared. They used to be show them in the newspaper all the time. Now you can't find a payout chart of who made what in a race where they finished, at least. T-Van says, anyone know what happened to Taylor Earnhardt? What is she doing now? She is an equestrian rider. She got really into horses. That was her passion. And so she is I think she's a top-notch equestrian rider, if I'm not mistaken. So that's what she's doing. Charters are another reason for no practice in NASCAR. I mean, yeah, like there's no need to put an emphasis on qualifying because everybody's going to get in unless you're a team without a charter. So that's a good point. Philip Kahneman says Earnhardt, Andretti, and Ware EAW. There you go. Earnhardt, Andretti, and Ware EAW. There you go. Ew. Eow. Like that would be pretty awesome too. Get Rick Ware racing to the front. That's the mantra for the season. Get Rick Ware Racing a win. Taxes for Gene Haas. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Tax evasion or tax fraud. Drew Chronic, 3 on the tree was cool. Oh man, I've never had a 3 on the tree, but they definitely look cool. I've actually never driven one. I know the basic process of it, but they say some people say they can be tricky at reverse. So got to be careful on the reverse on those jokers. Bumblebee says, I've been a mod here forever, talking to Mike. Yep, for sure. She's been on here since I've been streaming. I think you were the first or second mod. I think Rich was first, and I think Bumblebee was second, if I'm remembering correctly. John Lewis, not too many know about the 3 on the tree. I own one. Yeah, they're very rare. Like I think the last thing you saw them on was trucks. I think that was the last holdout for the 3 on the tree. I did see a few old Ford trucks that still had the 3 on the tree. That was the only ones, but I've never driven one. Let's see. Mike Ora says, I'm here now. I found him last week. I'm liking it here. I appreciate it, Mike. And I'm going to do my best to keep it good content and keep it rolling here. John Lewis says, that's a poll. That's a poll. Who drove or owned a vehicle with a 3 on the tree? Like, I bet we can do one. I'll just go ahead and end this because obviously Earnhardt Andretti is going to win here. Let's see here. But I'll do one with who's driven a manual or who can drive a manual. What? There we go. Start a poll. Wasn't working. Sorry. Little YouTube glitch here. So for those of you who don't know, YouTube's been glitching. So if you haven't seen videos from your favorite creators, it's because YouTube has a glitch in it or a bug or whatever. So that is why you haven't been seeing them. There we go. All right, let's see here. Best Weekly Live says Mark Barnum. I appreciate it, Mark. I learned to drive with a 3 on the tree, says Mark Barnum. So there you go. You learned with it. So you started with the hard one first, which is a pretty good strategy. Not a bad strategy at all. I think I found my new weekly home, says Mike Orr. I appreciate to have you on board, man. And I'll keep them coming every Tuesday. And we do a lot of them on Sundays too. Usually every Sunday during the season, unless there's a race on Saturday. Then there's really, I guess, not a reason to have one on Sunday, but we still have them sometimes on Sundays too. In the off season, Sundays are sort of hit or miss. Let's see here. Rick Ware Racing's best shot for a win is David Reagan in the 15 car at Super Speedways. Yeah, they came pretty close, and even when they had Ryan Preece gave it a heck of a job. Was doing a heck of a job wheeling it there too. So yeah, we need to get a win for Rick Ware Racing though. They can't go out without an L. Just having nothing but L's. They got to get one win. We got to get a Rick Ware Racing win. And they've been in NASCAR for a long time, at least since they've been in there since the 90s, oddly enough. They've had some involvement since the 90s. Old Home Guy says, what's Kyle working on this week? Working on getting a carburetor, a 450 carburetor for the division I'm running in, which is limited late models at Ace Speedway. Drew Chronic, geared for trucks. Mark Barnum says, my pickup is a manual. 96% of the audience can drive a manual. That has got to be some world record because most people, I don't know, I'm not going to get, most younger people cannot drive a manual. I guess we'll put it that way. My 81 Ford F100 with an 800 cubic inch engine. So there you go. And Mark Barnum's pickup is still a manual. Robin Mark says, I only drive manuals. My mom, I could drive one too. I even learned to shift without the clutch. Oh yeah, sometimes you can hear it or just sort of feel it, and when it gets to the sweet spot, throw it in there. The Beetle was the first car I drove. So funny story about the Beetle. I used to work at a car dealership in the mountains of Boone. B. Miller Ford. It is now modern Ford now. But I could drive a manual pretty good back then. But they said if you, I used to move the lot around, and that's just when you move the cars on the lot to display them. And I would help another guy do it. And he said, hey, because he knew that I'd never driven a Volkswagen before. And some of you know where this is going. Go over there and move that. Go over there and move that Volkswagen Beetle, and this was a new Beetle, but it's still the same type of gearbox as the old Beetle. And so to move it, I had to put it in reverse. So I'm over here fighting this thing. Like, this thing will not go in reverse. I'm sitting here fighting, struggling. I'm like, man, and I'm freaking out because I'm like, it's lost reverse, and they don't know it's lost reverse. And since they don't know it's lost reverse, they're going to think I stripped reverse out of this car. So he's over there, and I glance over at him, and it's him and 3 or 4 of the mechanics, and they're just laughing their asses off. Like, they're having the best time ever. So he comes over there and he says, "What's wrong? You can't get it. You can't drive a manual." I was like, "Man, I can drive a manual. You see me drive a manual." So he comes over and he says, "You can't get it in reverse." I was like, "Yeah, I can't get it in reverse, man. This thing's broke. It won't go in reverse." So he starts. I mean, he's busting out laughing. I mean, I know something's up, but I can't figure out how to get the thing in reverse or whatever. So he hops in it and he's like, "It's not broken." Then he pushes down on it, puts it in reverse. So they all had a pretty good laugh at my expense. So yeah, if you drive a Volkswagen, you got to push down on the thing, go all the way over, and then put it in reverse. I think a Volkswagen is actually up here to your right, if I'm not mistaken. But you got to push it, and then you got to push it down, and then put it over to put it in reverse. Let's see here. Old Home Guy says, "I learned to drive in a 74 F100, 3 on the tree." Yeah, no doubt. That is a I've never driven a 74. I drove an 84. I had an 84 F-150, but I haven't driven the 74. So I have not driven a 3 on the tree. Let's see here. Robin Marks, and my son has a manual Mazda. Mazdas are awesome. They got one of the best gearboxes in the game. These days, you have to pay more than automatics now. Yeah, but to be fair, they typically last way longer than an automatic, as long as you don't rag them out or just treat them badly. Escobar says, "Some NASCAR Cup owner needs to get Jordan Taylor behind the wheel. That guy can definitely has a great personality." Yeah, he's awesome. I'd love to see him drive a Cup car, especially at a road course. I think he'd absolutely rip it. Kyle Larson had to rent a Corvette to get used to Pocono shifting with Ganassi. That's pretty funny. Yeah, the sprint cars I don't think the sprint cars have anything in them except a go button. Drew Chronic, 3/4 shifting and downshifting. Oh yeah. Like a 4-speed on a road course isn't that bad. I think it's actually more challenging. You're still basically using the same 2 or 3 gears, but I think it's more challenging when you got a 6-speed because it's just much easier to get lost in the slush there. Mark Wachowski says, "I had my daughter learn to drive a 4-speed Toyota truck when she was 6. And motorcycles, 7 now, has a Mustang 4-speed and a Harley Sportster. We hate automatics." Yeah, my current truck is automatic because I don't think Chevrolet offers manuals in the regular 1500. So my truck is a automatic, but any cars I get in the future are going to be beaters, and I'm going for nothing but manuals, obviously. Race car, obviously a manual. Mike Ora says, "Current manual cars, 1987 Thunderbird Turbo Coupe." That is a sweet ride, Mike. 84 Porsche 944. 3 on the tree cars. The Porsche is definitely sweet too, by the way. 3 on the tree cars I've owned. The 59 Impala. That's awesome. A 54 Buick. Buicks are super underrated, by the way. And a 81 Chevy Silverados. There you go. Silverado gang in the house. Volkswagen bus with a crank back roof was my first manual I ever drove, says T-Van. So there you go. You knew the trick to the old push down and over to get it in reverse. Philip Canavan says, "I had to learn how to drive a manual when I was 6. My dad needed help, and anybody that was around had to help him." Oh yeah, man. Like my grandpa had me driving everything from when I was real little. Had me drive a tractor, to which he made fun of me because I couldn't hold the wheel straight. I had the tractor. It was the most crooked zigzag pattern you've ever seen anybody mow in a lawn for sure. So yeah, that was sort of a deal. Drew Chronic says, "Push down." Yeah, so like let's say this is the gear shift. Push down on it like this and over. That's how you put it. That's how you put it in reverse on a Volkswagen. At least the Volkswagen Beetles back in the day. Molten Rage. I'm gonna talk to you on Twitter and tell you what's going on, Molten. Drew Chronic says NASCAR might see road ringers next year. Yeah, I think they've been seeing them, no doubt about it. And I think you'll see quite a few more, especially with all these teams wanting to do all-star rides. I think you'll definitely see a bunch more. Rob Rohr says, do you think we'll get that Smoke will race an Xfinity car in the next couple of seasons? It would have to be something that would interest him. Maybe Indianapolis. He showed interest in doing Indianapolis. Tony Stewart might want to do North Wilkesboro. That would be something I think we could see happen. So that would be something that would lure him. I think we could also see Tony Stewart in a late model. I think that is something that could possibly happen at North Wilkesboro. So I think there is a chance you get to see Tony Stewart do that deal. We could definitely see Tony Stewart in the Cars Tour now that it's been bought by Junior. We know Junior and Tony Stewart are at least on good speaking terms. We know Kevin Harvick and Tony Stewart are good friends. So I think that's something we could see happen. I think you see Tony Stewart in a late model, possibly racing with Kevin Harvick at North Wilkesboro. Obviously, Dale Jr. will be racing in there too. So I think that's something you could definitely see. All that's just me speculating, by the way. But I think we could see him, and an Xfinity car wouldn't be out of the question for a track like North Wilkesboro or somewhere else that he would like to race at that has some type of significance. Of course, he wanted to race at Indianapolis on the road course the first time the Xfinity cars got onto it, but something happened there and he couldn't do it. John Lewis says, hard A71 Torino on the tree. I then moved it to the floor. Oh, there you go. There you go. A mechanical feat in itself. That right there. Rob Rohr says, I learned to drive a stick on a 428 Cobra Jet. Oh, man, don't miss a shift on that joker, man. Oh, goodness. A lot of pressure there. It was a learning experience at 14. Yeah. How many rear tires did you go through? So the first car I drove was a 72 SS Nova. And I about gave my mom a heart attack the first time I put my foot on the gas. Because I lit them up and I wasn't even trying to light them up. The car was just light and had power. Farm kids learn to drive tractors, and they have a clutch. We had a beater Datsun with a stick. We 13 made a dirt track in our field. Yeah, a lot of people had their old home dirt track for their go-karts in their backyard. Definitely fun. Beast 1624 says he had a 84 T-Bird Turbo, very nice. Borg Warner 5-speed. Borg Warner used to be the first and last name in manual transmissions, no doubt. Mark Barnum had a 63 Fairlane with a 3 on the tree. Rob said, I think Tony Stewart at the Glen, that would be pretty cool. Tony Stewart at the Glen would be pretty cool. I think he's kind of open to driving an Xfinity car, no doubt. RFK with an announcement tomorrow. That's like 5 teams planning to drop news tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be crazy. Tomorrow's going to be absolutely insane, and I might not be able to get to all of it because I think I'm going to be tied up with work. So I don't know how much. I don't even know if I'll get a video out tomorrow. So we'll see. Keith Wentz, do you think Junior will ever go to Cup cars? Yeah, I do. I think when they do the engine changes or when they do the new engine formula, I think you'll see Junior jump up there. I think that'll be the year he jumps into it. But also they got to renegotiate this TV money, and so that's going to be a big part of it too. So right now he's posturing for better TV money for the team owners in that sport. I saw today Newman is running a modified this year. Yeah, he's been running modifieds, Mark Barnum. He's going to expand that, and he's actually running for Hermie Sadler. So Hermie Sadler is the modified he's been running. He actually technically won the first race back to North Wilkesboro in a modified first feature race back. Was Ryan Newman. So yeah, he is with the Sadler brothers, and that's the modified he's been running. Mark Wachowski says, do the so-called road course ringers ever finish in the top 5? Seems like more hype than results. Yeah, I think they're still good. I think they're not necessarily in great. Joey Hand made a run last year. He was coming through there, and Kimi Räikkönen was coming up through the field too. He was going to have a good finish. But that being said, I think it's harder to do it now than it was back in the day because these Cup drivers are so much more well-rounded. They have to put a more emphasis on road courses because now you have 8 or 9 of them in the Cup Series, so you can't just ignore them anymore because there's only 2 of them. So that's part of it. There's a lot of things that factor into it. Also, the setups have become so knife edge that it's really hard for a team that only runs 1 or 2 races to just put a guy in there. So there's a lot of things that add up to make it like that. But that being said, every once in a while somebody catches lightning in the bottle. So I don't think it's out of the question. I think it's just going to be more rare with everything like that. Escobar says, do you think SRX and Cars Tour will team up in the future for a doubleheader? It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me, especially with the Kevin Harvick and Tony Stewart links there. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. I think Dale Jr. is still on the fence about SRX, so that could be an issue. But that would be a cool event. That would definitely be a cool event. Like the Cars Tour would be the preliminary race, and then you had the SRX as the main show. And you could have the Ringer. The Ringer would run in like both races. That would be something for the fans, and I think that would go over really well, especially on a Thursday night. I think that would be really rad. Old Home Guy says, remember when Rick Ware Racing and Tony Stewart Racing go 330 miles per hour a lot of weekends? Yeah, they both have they both have drag cars. Rick Ware Racing has a car in just like every series except F1. And maybe he partners with Andretti for the F1 deal too. Who knows? Molten Ray says, I'm gonna talk to you later, Molten. I got to talk to you later about what would happen. Okay. So I'll talk to you on Twitter, dude. Mark Wachowski, Kenny Wallace has his own Jake break, no doubt about that. Kenny Wallace, by the way, follow him if you get a chance. He's a good follow. Rob says, hey, thanks for my last name. All right, good deal. I was being okay. So Rob Rohr, or how I was saying it right now. I probably messed it up. Yeah, I appreciate that. I was worried about it. That's why I was just saying Rob at that point right there. Might have jinxed myself. Old Home Guy says, Big Brother had a 1964 GMC with a 4-speed and a big V6. Yeah, those big V6 Chevrolets were actually no joke back in the day. Even some people even got those straight sixes to run pretty good, especially in the trucks. Rob says, you and Eric Estep are the only two I follow on YouTube as far as credible NASCAR knowledge. Yeah, Eric does a great job. Take nothing away from him. He's probably I think he's the most watched out of anybody that does the news. I'm not like a YouTube expert, but he gets the most views out of anybody doing like YouTube NASCAR news that I know of. And he does a great job just to come in basically every day, and put in the work like he's done for probably close to a decade now. He's one of the best, no doubt about it. So yeah, I actually met him at Phoenix. Super nice guy too. So if you ever meet him, he is a super nice guy as well. So good dude for sure. I appreciate it, Rob. Old Home Guy says Xfinity is a just to be mentioned for somebody that's been doing it that long. I appreciate it. Xfinity is a place for road course ringers, says Home Guy. Yeah, that's some place they could actually show up and do something. That's definitely very feasible, or more feasible in the Xfinity series. Keith Lynn says, how do you think Tyler Reddick will do in his new team? I expect him to be in the top 8, the Elite 8 in the playoffs. I think he'll hit the ground running over there. They've got fast cars. I think he's still going to be streaky. But for the playoffs, being streaky doesn't matter as long as you're not streaky in the actual playoffs. Rob Rohr says, I heard Dale Jr. was interested in the SRX until they wrote him a big check. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I just know that he's come out and said he doesn't know how he feels about the SRX. He said that on his podcast. So it's hard to say. Donnie Love says both have top fuel cars. So they are both top fuel. I didn't know what Rick Ware ran over there. So that's pretty cool. And John Lewis says, and both are winless. LOL. So I think Tony Stewart's got some wins with Leah Pritchard, but I think John Lewis was talking about Rick Ware's winless in every series he's in too. Okay, I got you, John Lewis. But I was about to say, I know Tony Stewart's got some wins with his team. Big Will Hawaii says, I'm not a huge NHRA follower, but I do like watching it from time to time. I used to watch Street Outlaws too before it got super cheesy. Big Wheel Hawaii says, Kenny Wallace, he's a national treasure. I agree with you. Love the Herminator, the old Herminator. Rob Rohr says Roar. So I was saying it mostly right until I mind freaked myself out there. Appreciate it, man. I'm glad I got it right, at least at first. I'm always nervous about mispronouncing somebody's name because like some people really take that seriously. People call me Kevin all the time, and my name's Kyle. So I just grew up with that for so long that it doesn't even affect me. But some people, if you call them the wrong name, they get super mad, especially when your clothes are off. But that's another story. Mark Barnum says, I follow Toby Christie and Taylor Kitchen on YouTube. Taylor Kitchen's another good one. So if you're not following, well, it's on the Toby Christie channel, I guess I should say. So Toby Christie's a good follow. But Taylor Kitchen does a really good job. And I'm always amazed she doesn't get as many views for the level of effort and work she puts in. So if you haven't checked out Taylor Kitchen on Toby Christie, check her out. She does a good job over there. And yeah, so I can't remember what days she streams. She streams, there's a consistent day she streams on, but next time you see her streaming on Toby Christie, check it out. Give her a try, and if you like it, hit that subscribe button. Bo Darwell, the Bandit, says, I used to watch E-Step's videos, but he complained about the races being too long and on almost every video. Yeah, so I don't know. Like sometimes people disagree with me, but I do try to give both sides of it. I feel like E-Step does try to give both sides of it now. But as a YouTuber, we're all guilty of it. We get in a habit of, if we don't like something, sometimes we don't give the other point of view just because we're so locked in. But I do try to give the other side's point of view. Like I am a points traditionalist. But that being said, I do try to, when I make those arguments, give the other side of the argument too. And I think Eric does too. But like I said, we all get into bad habits. So Eric does a good job. But yeah, he doesn't like long races. And he's still pushing for shorter races. So that's something he fundamentally wants. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has different opinions, and that's kind of what makes life fun, right? Mark Wachowski says, Roar 714, Quaalude. Oh God. Yeah, there we go. We just got demonetized. Just playing. It's all good. I don't know if anybody even knows what those are anymore. Rob says, Junior said it on one of his Dale Junior download episodes. Yeah, he said he doesn't know how he feels about it, and he might have also said that he would be interested in getting involved in it. Hopefully, he does race. Like I said earlier, Elite Precision actually has a video on his dream, the Elite Precision 29. He has a video on his dream drivers he would like to see driving in the SRX, and it's pretty good. Give it a watch, and I might follow him up on a video as well. Robin Marks, every year in school on the first day, the teacher always got my name wrong. They call me Mark Robbins. Yeah, because very similar first and similar to two first names when it's Robin Marks. I understand. Rob Roar says, Burger, you was correct, sir. I appreciate it, buddy. Old home guy, of all the live streaming I've seen you do, the best, including everyone's comments. Yeah, so that's the reason I do that is because back in the day, I would be typing stuff and trying to get my comments in, and I always remembered, like, if they ever read one of your comments, it was just like a really good feeling, because like you're trying to talk about something, and this is your community to talk about something. So it was always it made me feel really good when somebody like actually said what my question or comment was in a live stream comment chat. So that's why I try to read every single one of them. That's what the Tuesday one is definitely all about. And usually the Sunday one too. After I get through Sundays, we do the preview of the odds and all that. But after I get through that, I still try to get to all the comments as well, because I just remember it was always like a good feeling. And the other reason I do it is I grew up a Richard Petty fan. Richard Petty, he made the sport of NASCAR by sitting and signing every single person's memorabilia. He would sign them until nobody was there left to sign. And he said it was like a thank you to his fans. And to me, like me answering and trying to read every single one of these questions, that's me just saying a thank you to all of you who watch. So that's why I do it. I try to read as many of them as I can. Now, one day, maybe it gets to a point where I can't do that. But as long as I can do that, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to read every single one of them. I do the same thing with the comments. I try to read every single comment and get to as many of them as I can. The comments have occasionally now gotten to a point where I can't get to all of them, but I do still try to get to all of them. Because I remember how good it made me feel when somebody answered my comment on a video. And I remember when I was watching live streams, how good it made me feel when somebody acknowledged something I said. So it meant the world to me, and that's why I do it here. Okay, so that's why I do it, and I appreciate you guys. Before I get weepy and start crying here, Escobar says people that want shorter races is because they find the current racing boring. So that's a good point, Escobar, and that's probably the bigger deal. If they made the product better, nobody complains about an NFL game being too long because the product is good. The play on the field, let's just say it is. You might disagree with that, but you see where I'm going with this. As long as the product on the field is good, or on the racetrack is good, nobody is going to complain about how long it is. So if the product was better, nobody would be complaining about, oh, this thing's 500 miles. They'd be complaining the opposite, like, man, we wish these races were longer, right? Because the product's so good. Obviously, there's a point of diminishing returns, and I think we found that with 400 and 500 miles. We found that a long time ago. Big Bill France found that number, right? So I think if we improve the racing on the track, we would get far, far fewer complaints about the races being too long. And that's just my take on it. Now, the drivers are going to complain about it because they're in the race cars, they're putting in the work. But that's one thing. But the fans complaining about it, when the fans complain about it, that means, the product needs to be improved. Mark Barnum says, hit that like button. I appreciate that, Mark. Yeah, so if you guys want to hit the like button, that would be appreciated. Mark Bukowski, you do a great job, Kyle. Don't change. I don't plan on it. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to keep it going as long as I can keep it going because the way it's going right now is just really cool. I think we're basically at the perfect size. So I appreciate all you guys. Rob Roar says bullseye, so I appreciate that. And Old Home Guy says, how close are you on the yugo status and subscribers? I think I'm at 8,000. Hold on, I think I can look at that one and tell you. Let's see here. We are at 8,854. On our way to 10,000. At 10,000, we will do a fiat build. It's technically a yugo build, but obviously I can't find a yugo for less than like several $1,000s. I'm not spending several $1,000s on a yugo because I know I'll have to fix it. But the Fiat is the Fiat 500L is made in the same plant that the yugo was made in. So if we can find a decent Fiat 500L, that will be the yugo project. And I think I can find one. If I can't find a Fiat 500L, I have found several Fiat 500s. That is basically the exact same, would be the modern day equivalent, exact same car. So those are going to be basically the two options. I'm going to cut it off at those. Those are going to be the two options. So it's going to be the yugo Fiat project when we hit 10,000. If we hit 10,000, I'm not going to get cocky and say that we will hit 10,000 because we might not ever hit it. But that will be what happens at 10,000, no doubt. Escobar says, I love racing. I try to watch all 24 hours of the 24 Rolex, even if it's off the air. I follow it online. Yeah, and you can follow it on the radio too. Like if you can't catch it online, like you can stream it on the radio, the online radio as well. So you can sort of be watching the scoring and timing and still be hearing what's going on as well. So that's pretty cool deal. IMSA does a really good job with 24 Hours of Daytona. They do a great job. It's one of the best events put on, and I will be for those of you that'll be at the 24 Hours of Daytona. I do have my tickets for that. I do not have tickets for it, but I'm working on it. So we will see what happens with that. Say Kyle, not Cal, call me crazy, but I want Coke 1000 since the cars and drivers are more durable and train better. Bring back the long endurance race. Not only that, but you could have a driver swap, right? You could have, just drivers do stints. Like I wouldn't be opposed to that. And I think NASCAR has something like that up their sleeve coming for NASCAR pretty soon. Because what I'm being told is that NASCAR and IMSA are basically the same entity, but they're going to fully integrate and merge, which means we're probably going to get at least one race where we see NASCAR cars on the track. And I think that's what part of what this Project 56 car is all about. We're going to see NASCAR cars on the track with IMSA modifieds and stuff like that. Sort of a crossover event, sort of like NASCAR's talked about doing a crossover event with IndyCar. I think that is in the future, but that's just my opinion. Nothing solid on that. Stephen D'Amelio Jr. says, I'm tired of everybody saying they should shorten this and shorten that. They've already taken enough away, but they surely didn't shorten their daggum prices on anything. That's a good point, Stephen. That's a very good point. If you pay that much money, you want maximum laps, right? You're paying that money because you want to see your guy for the maximum amount of time possible. No doubt about it. John Lewis says, so what is the chance Chevy, Ford, and Toyota get into the Rolex 24 after the 56 car project? Well, I just talked about it. I think there's I don't know if it'll be the Rolex 24, but I think there's a good chance that they do it at one race. And I think that's coming somewhere down the line. And I think that if you look at the IMSA engines now, it wouldn't surprise me if they're going to be very similar to the engine package that NASCAR puts in their Cup cars whenever they change the engine package. And I will leave it at that. And that's just me guessing. That's nothing for sure. 24 hours of Daytona is the best race for the money. 100%. I agree with you, Mark Wachowski. And this is going to be my first time doing the 24 hours of Daytona, so I'm super stoked about that. Anthony Auto Club Speedway says, the legend, Bologna Burger. I remember that always, 100. I appreciate you, Anthony. No doubt about it. Robin Marks, if you like Kyle's video, promote him. When you talk about him with other NASCAR fans, I've given him a shout out. When I watched YouTubers doing live commentary during the races, we're so close to 10K. I appreciate it, Robin Marks. Yeah, you don't have to spam anybody or anything like that, but I appreciate any support you guys give me. No doubt about it. Like I do this thing for you. Like basically, this started because I didn't have none of my friends really wanted to talk about NASCAR. Like we all talk about short track stuff because we do short track stuff, but they all do the old tough guy. I don't watch NASCAR anymore. You know that if you work in short track racing, you know what I'm talking about. So even though they'll watch the races, they just in my opinion want to act tough and not talk about it. So it is what it is. So that's sort of where this that's partially where this came out of. There's other stuff to it too. We'll talk about that at some other point. Someone is selling a Yugo on Facebook Marketplace for $400, says Escobar. Well, there you go. There you go. They're not selling it on my one because I promise you, I've looked for it. But if I find one, because I'm just going to use the shell, I'll just go ahead and tell you, I'm not going to use the Yugo engine or anything like that. If I find a Yugo, it'll just be a Yugo and shell only because I'm going to stick probably a Honda motor or something reliable in it. So we'll see. But let's see. Funny unknown fact of Mars Candy, the owner, she's a green head against fossil fuels. Yeah, that's so. I don't know. This sort of gets political, so I guess I'm not going to touch on it. But they've caught a lot of flack because they have gone super progressive with some of their stuff. So they've caught a lot of flack for that. And I'll leave it at that. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I do think that played a big deal in why they pulled out of NASCAR. No doubt about that in my mind. The way they went politically, I think they didn't care for NASCAR, and I think that's why they pulled out of NASCAR. So I will say that I've always gotten that feeling, but I can't prove it, and I don't want to get political because I don't care who you vote for. I really honestly don't. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. You can make a fair argument that either side is dumb. No doubt about that, and I think we'll all agree about that. And so we'll leave it there. We came here for racing, not politics, so I'll leave that be. When you're in Daytona, check out Down Under for a meal. I definitely will do that. I think I'm going to get the extra pass where it's like a taste of the 24 hours of Daytona, where you can get basically food all week. So I'll check that out as well. Bumblebee says, y'all have a good night, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for all the birthday wishes. I'm tired and want to relax. So happy birthday to Bumblebee, and get some rest up, get some sleep. I hope it was a good one. Rob Rohr says, NASCAR friends are the best friends a NASCAR fan could ever have, 100. I agree with that 100%. And Mark Barnum saying later, EB. Escobar says the Yugo is in Philly. Yeah, that's a little bit of a drive. I'm not taking a trailer all the way up to Philly. It has to be something relatively local. I can't buzz off from some of my obligations right now for a 2 or 3 day trip like that, especially when I got a 2 or 3 day trip coming in the Daytona deal. So yeah, but I'll find one. I'll find one. We'll either do the Yugo or the Fiat. We'll eventually find a Yugo at some point, right? I mean, I'm gonna find one eventually. But we might have to do a Fiat in between. But no promises. I'm not gonna make too many promises on that. We'll definitely get a Yugo or Fiat project going. At 10,000. One wise guy says, anyway, we can start the Sunday streams an hour later for us West Coast folks. Not a problem on the off season. Like, during the regular season, I got to start them earlier because I don't want to run. I don't want to bleed into the actual NASCAR coverage of the race. But yeah, we can start them later if you want to. No doubt about that. During the off season, so a few more weeks, we'll start them later. Let's see. Do you go on Marketplace for 400 is in Philly, and it's a manual car, says Philip Canavan. So there you go. Drew Chronic, Yugo with a tube chassis with a cage would be nice. Yeah, for sure. Old Home Guy says, good night to the birthday girl. Drew Chronic, Ford has the Fiesta from the late 80s. Cool cars for winter. Yeah, there's definitely, like, that's what I'm saying. So I could get into all these alternatives that I could do for it. But I'm sticking if I can't find a Yugo around here for cheap, and I don't even care if it's automatic. It doesn't make a difference to me. I will go with a Fiat because that is basically the brand that brought them out, bought them out, and I will get one that came from the same factory as the Yugo. So that is the Yugo deal. I guess I need to promote it a little bit better. I guess that would help me get a bump to that 10,000. So I'll try to figure out something on that. Let's see here. Heck, a Pinto will work in a pinch, says John Lewis. Yeah, Pinto definitely, I guess, wasn't necessarily the most reliable car, or had the reputation for not being the most reliable car. Any small Chevrolet car from the 80s would also be equally unreliable. Actually, any small car from the 80s would be equally unreliable because from the history book about the Yugo that I'm reading, it was a race to the bottom with small, inexpensive cars. So the Yugo was the prime example. VW Rabbit, anything VW, they're temperamental as heck once you get past the air-cooled engines for a certain amount of time with the VWs, in my opinion. Old Home Guy says, fix it again, Tony, Yugo racing. Yeah, don't worry. I've got some Yugo content and some Fiat content lined up when we get this going. I just got to get everything lined up. As some of you know, I hit a deer with my car in like October. So I found another car. So I have replaced Larson 1. Larson 2 is on the way. And Larson 2 is going to be a Honda, and it's an automatic. But I got a killer price on it, and it's a Honda, so it should be pretty reliable. So Larson 2 is on the way. Once I get that squared away, and I've sold my food truck, the food truck is sold. So now we've got some money to get we can get that project going. So if I find one at a good price, I'll go ahead and make the purchase, and we'll start doing some videos to get some momentum for it, and see if that can take off and hopefully get us to 10,000 quicker, so we can start the actual project. But like I said, no promises. I'll just be looking, and it's going to be dependent on getting a good deal. Robin Marks, my Chevette didn't like hills. What a car! Yeah, those 80s Econo boxes were something else. The stuff about Yugo being unsafe was no frame or something. They just rusted out. That's why it's actually hard to find them. So part of it is they just rusted out because it was not the greatest metal to be making them out of. They just had it, like any way you could make it cheap, they made it cheap, and it was a Fiat. So Fiat is actually kind of known for cutting corners as it is. So it was a Fiat that had already cut corners, and then they cut some more corners, and that's how you got a Yugo. That's why I'm really leaning into the Fiat part of it, because it was actually based on a Fiat. The Fiat Yugo thing just lines up so good that I don't feel bad about doing any type of Fiat. So it is what it is. John Lewis says they did make some woo. They did make some toast in the 80s for sure. That might be it for the voice today, boys. Woo. Yeah, the 80s cars, the 80s Econo boxes raced to the bottom. They were not good cars. The new Fiat 500 is awesome. Yeah, so the new Fiat 500, the gasoline engine one is still cool, but the newest Fiat 500 is actually an electric car. So pretty strong deviation, but it makes sense for that because it's the people's car. It's always been the people's car. It was the Italian version of the people's car. The Volkswagen was the German version of the people's car. And we're not going to get into what the people's car was, but if you know your history, you know your history. So we're not going to jump into that. Don't write that word in the comment section, please, dear God. So we're going to leave that be. The Plymouth Horizon, a gear grabber. Yeah, so there you go. Like the Chevy Vega, there were and the Pinto, they were cool because you could slam an engine into them, and the Chevy Vega was cool because it had this really fancy. The way they did their non-power steering, their steering box was really cool. So yeah, 100%. Some of those small cars had some redeeming qualities. Some of those small cars did not, and the Yugo was one of them. But we'll get that project going. I just got to find one at the right price. And I can't bleed into my race car budget either. I've already had to pay to replace 2 hot water heaters. So that ate into some of that. Just to be totally honest with you, that ate into some of the Fiat Yugo budget as well. So once I replenish that money, we will probably make a move on it. And if I can find one at a good enough price, we'll just start it early and to hell with 10,000. But it'll have to be a good price. Let's see. John Lewis, I went up north in a Horizon. Says Drew Chronic. Corvair is a cool old car, but not fast unless it's a Yinko Stinger. Yeah, Yinko, a dealership in California, but they hopped up a lot of cars. They had a hot rod shop within the dealership. Those Yinkos are pretty tough. Anything they touched. Cosworth Vegas were pretty quick. Anything Cosworth touched, another one. Cosworth engines were pretty tough. Word on the street is the what is it? The Mazda, one of the Mazda 4-cylinders was basically the Cosworth block back in I think the 2.3 Cosworth block that was shared between Ford and Mazda was actually a Cosworth racing block. That's why those 2.3s were so badass back in the day. What about a Fiero? Keep it American. It would make sense, but the whole deal was how did we even get started about this? I think it was like I don't even remember how this got started, but it started off as a Yugo thing, so it had to be a foreign car. I mean, typically I would agree with you. I like American cars myself, but it had to be a foreign car because we got talking about Yugos or somehow like that, and that's where this all spawned from. So it has to be not even a foreign car; it just has to be a Yugo or Yugo related family, which would be Fiat. So that's the reliance on the Yugo Fiat deal. So we're gonna get that going. John Lewis says, "Oh gosh, DC, nothing's American anymore." Yeah, it's all nothing's anything anymore. It's assembled where it's assembled, and it's all global parts. No doubt about that. As far as cars go, Mark Wachowski says nothing's American anymore. Yugo only channel here, says Old Home Guys. Yeah, I might make a backup Yugo channel. Baloney Yugo, that might be the backup channel. I don't know. But all right, we are about to hit the 2-hour mark. So any other things you want to say or any questions or stuff like that you got, we'll get to them. And yeah, so about 5 or 6 more minutes here, and then I'll jump off. Mike Orr says, LOL, I'm buying a Yugo possibly Saturday. LOL, 88 GTV. All right, so you're getting the hopped up. You're getting the old sport version, the old GTV hopped up sport version. That was they actually made a Yugo rally car. So you can find a Yugo rally car, and there's also somebody that put 2 Cadillac 500 engines in one Yugo. So you can find some people that have done some insane stuff. So there actually are some Yugo race cars out there. Some people had this idea at a better time than I had this idea. So that's pretty cool. Didn't Toyota make a version of the Nova? I'm not sure about that. I know Toyota made several rear wheel drive cars back in the day, and they had some notorious problems about them, but they are sort of iconic in the JDM world. No doubt about that. So yeah, for sure. Old Home Guy says peace and keep warm. Yeah, I'm definitely. I got the old hoodie on, trying to keep warm here today. I used to race a Volvo P1800 at Ascot Park in Gardenia, California, back in '87 and '88. Yeah, so Volvos are cool. You can make pretty cool sleepers out of Volvos, especially the old rear wheel drive ones. They're really good sleeper cars. And the good thing about a Volvo is it's actually the exact opposite of a Yugo. Those old Volvos, they'll run forever and not give you the first moment of problems. So Volvos are actually good sleeper cars. That might be something I can get into too. Once we do this build, since we're doing the worst possible car you can do to make a race car out of. And there's going to be other things. It's going to be a cool deal, but that might be a video I make. I'll do some of the best endurance cars you can buy to make a race car out of as cheaply as you can make a race car. It's always going to be expensive. Deegan had a good video this week of her ripping the micro at Millbridge. Yeah, she lives at Millbridge. Like if she's not racing anything else, her and her boyfriend Chase are over at Millbridge racing. So she's trying to get in as much seat time as she can. There's a lot of drivers that go over there. If you want to see basically an all-star race, go over to Millbridge. You never know who you'll see over there. Mike Ora says Nova, Corolla, 87, 89-ish. So yeah, there you go. That's not the only time they've combined either. The Geo Metro Chevy Prism, the Chevy Prism and the Toyota Corolla were the same car as well. in the 90s up to I don't know up to through the 2000s. Even the Toyota Matrix, all the way up through the Toyota Matrix and the Pontiac Vibe. I want to say from like '93 until whenever the Pontiac Vibe ran out. That was Toyota and GM, and those cars are steals. If you can get one at a good price, they will run forever. Say Kyle, not Cal. Appreciate the time, BB. Gave me something to listen to while I watch the Orlando Magic lose at 10 p.m. The Magic, man. They've had some good seasons. They've had some bad seasons, but they've mostly had bad luck, man. I always wanted to see that Penny Hardaway, Grant Hill team, but neither one of them were ever healthy at the same time. When Grant Hill finally got healthy, that's when Penny Hardaway started having injury problems. So I always wanted to see that team fully healthy, but it never materialized. I thought they had something there, but still got some of the best jerseys in the league. Talking with my friends about some the other day. The 80s Nova was a Toyota Corolla. But it was less reliable for some reason. Like, it makes no sense. Like, why was the Chevy car always unreliable, but the Toyota version always ran good until they did the Corolla Geo Prism, and then whatever it was, the Chevy Prism after Geo went away. There was a Nova in the 80s or 90s that wasn't much more than cash for clunkers, says Old Home Guy. Yeah, I think that's when, for whatever reason, Chevrolet didn't put the same level of materials or quality into them. But Chevrolet has never had a good small car other than that Chevy Prism and that, or GM and that Pontiac Vibe. Everybody has complained about all their small cars other than that. Pinto and Mercury Bobcat too. So yeah, the Mercury Bobcat, that is I feel like that's a Canadian thing. I don't remember too many Mercuries down here, but I remember the Pinto being you either loved it or you hated it. A lot of people hated it, but the people that were in the know, they knew you could hop them up and put big motors in them and stuff like that. Geo Metro, Suzuki Swift, Chevy Spectrum, Isuzu Amero. So there you go. Mike Ora all over it. He's remembering that. Remember the old Suzuki Sidekick too, and the Chevy, the Geo Tracker for Chevrolet. They claimed those things were not safe, and then it came out years later after they had basically hurt them from doing anything good. Sort of made them. They had killed them off before they could get going good or whatever. Mike Ora says, "I'm Mark." So there you go. Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill, and yeah, we wish we saw it too. Yeah, it looked so good until everybody got hurt. It's so unfortunate. Daryl Adams, second was a 75 Mustang. Man, I'm a Duke fan, so I followed Grant Hill. Tracy McGrady, also, he went to high school in Durham, or his prep academy was in Durham. So I was favorable toward him as well. Second was the 70 Mount Zion in Durham, was Tracy McGrady. Second was a 75 Mustang manual. I'm sorry, after showing off for a couple years, 2 clutches and a tranny, I gave it up and haven't touched the stick since. It hurt giving up that Mustang. Yeah, like they can, you can have fun with them, but fun comes at a cost. You got to replace parts when you're having fun. Unfortunately, that's the race car game, or just sports car having fun game. John Lewis says, been fun. Once more, good night to all. Who's the NASCAR and Xfinity drivers at the Chili Bowl? I think it's Ricky Stenhouse and who was the other one? I can't remember who the other one was. I know Kaylee Bryson's over there. I think there is one other Cup driver over there though. Let's see here. Mark Wachowski, Richie Evans ran a Pinto body on his modifieds. Yeah, a lot of Pinto guys did run those cars as well. Chase Briscoe, that's the other one. Appreciate it, Mark Barnum. Mark Barnum with a glove save and a beauty. Chase Briscoe and I think Ricky Stenhouse are over there. I know Chase Briscoe for sure. All right, that is all I got for you on this one. I've had a good time. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.